everyone, Lei here, bringing you the first episode of a new weekly tutorial series from this to that. In this video, I'll cover researching, drafting, layering, accessorizing, and some techniques I particularly like. Before I get into it, I'd just like to mention that I'm still learning as well, so take what I do with a grain of salt. In fact, if you have any tips for me as well, please leave it in the comments. With that being said, let's get started. So, the concept for this outfit is centered around our character Lydia von Diabolic from my webtoon, the reincarnation of Countess Diabolic, but in a wintry setting. So, in this case, since we're dressing a character with their own personality, there is actually something extra that I always take care with. Basically, I find that dressing and outfits act as a tool to make a character's personality come across louder. The ideal goal is by just looking at her, one is able to tell what her temperament or personality is like. So I'm mindful about silhouettes and color schemes that I pick for her. But that's delving into character design and character concept theory. So if you'd like a dedicated video about that, just let me know in the comments. So, knowing that, let's get into the research and inspiration phase. So, just for a bit of background, our webcomic is an isekai romance fantasy. So, I love period dramas and historical fashion. So, of course, the outfits that all our characters wear are historically inspired and are from a variety of different periods and locations historically. But I personally also like to add more gothic, campy, and dramatic designs. So I also refer to costumes for stage plays, movies, and subcultures like Visual Kei and Gothic Lolita. For Lydia though, I tend to go for an 1800s bustle dress silhouette like this one. I did get this off Pinterest, so I do recommend Pinterest to gather pictures and references for outfits that you might like, but I heavily recommend to go further in and click on links on the Pinterest picture and find where it's from. Usually would lead you to a blog or a website, and those blogs and websites, from my experience, usually have so much more of that same picture that you're looking for, and plus you tend to get the origins and backstory and credits for the picture, which helps you get context and makes you better equipped to design your outfit. For example, right here I clicked on one picture and I'm led to a blog post specifically talking about winter clothing in the 1800s. So it makes things very streamlined and much easier to collect information and designs. So when I'm looking at designs, what I'm really finding for are elements. What I mean by that is basically my brain categorizes things into sections, and I look for parts that I like. For example, the neckline, the hem, the sleeves, the hats, the pattern, the gloves, the train, the shoes, all that. I kind of think it like putting a collage together, Frankensteining an outfit from different parts that I like from already made designs. Right, so now we're in the drafting stage. Draw out just a rough, very rough humanoid figure like I'm doing here, and just transfer those elements that you found and really like into that. So I'll walk you through what I found and how I'm putting it together. In this case, I really liked this fur hat with the feather, so I'm going to stick with it pretty loyally. And from this picture, the same picture, I'm getting those fur sleeves, although I wanted something a bit more dramatic, so I'm gonna make them extra long and wide just for extra drama. So I'm having trouble with the neckline. I wanted something again dramatic, so I went with costuming. Again, costumes for stage plays and movies for fantasy movies tend to be very, very big and just out of this world. So if you're going for that look, I really recommend them. So I ended up implementing a ruffle neckline and also like a huge fur coat, training like super long train until the floor length, according to those references I showed. So that is the base of the dress. Now what I'm doing here is just adding detailing like the pleats in the middle, according to that reference on the right, and some lace in the middle where I think it should be, and on the sleeves. After being done with the draft, I just shove it into the corner so we can proceed with the sketching phase. On this part, I just focus on the pose that suits the outfit, kind of treating the character like a model to emphasize the main points of the dress. Her leaning to the side like this will make sure the coat drapes interestingly and the folds will fall nicely. I also make her hold the coat on her right hand so that it can emphasize the fluffiness of it. Also, please use a vector layer. I am using Clip Studio Paint. Please use a vector layer because it will save you a lot of time, and I will show you in the next phase. So almost done. Now it's the refining phase. So I just used my previous sketch as a guideline, and I just turned down the opacity and put a new vector layer on top of it. As I mentioned before, vector layers are so time saving because of the vector eraser. Basically, when two lines are crossing, the vector eraser can erase only the part of the line that goes over the other line. Really, try it out if you haven't. I will assure you that you won't regret it. So actually for the fur, if you can see here, I'm doing a very light stroke. If you read manga, you can tell that it's very in that manga style. It's one of the fastest and easiest way to draw fur, and especially if you want that fluffy light look, I recommend you trying it out. Just follow the flow of where the fur is heading. So if you look at it, this hat here, both sides of the hat have different opposite flows of where the fur is going. So same goes for the long coat. The fur lines are heading towards the ground, so that's the general gist of it. Okay, so it's folds time. My favorite part of drawing clothes, personally. Since it's supposed to be a winter coat, it makes sense for it to be heavy and thick. So I focus on doing large folds like this to try and send that impression that it has a lot of mass, and to give that feeling that it looks warm if you were to wear it. On the bodice here as well, actually, although it's sort of a peplum cut, we can still show the thickness of it with the way it pulls at the seams at the center. Speaking of seams, I recommend adding them just anywhere. Although there's so many types of seams, I'm not gonna get into it. Just a simple single line going down a blouse or skirt or pants will give an added realness to the clothing on your character. Try and maybe observe your clothes right now and see where the seams on your clothes are. That's one of the best ways to understand how, in general, clothes are made. Though my rule of thumb / life hack is to just add a border to all the ends of the clothes, the sleeves, the skirts and pants, all of them. Just add some kind of border. That should work somehow. Aha! Another benefit of the vector layer is that you can thicken and thin out the lines. When I zoomed out just now, I just noticed the fur looked too faded, so I simply just adjusted the line thickness just in one stroke with that green thing that you see there. It's me adjusting the lines. So actually what I like to do is make the parts where two lines meet thicker, like the part between the neck and the jaw, or the part between the arm and the body. I don't know, but it gives like an impression of more depth in the characters, adding some kind of dimension to it, you could say. So moving on to the bottom of the coat here, you can see that I'm doing the same thing as the sleeves, the thick and heavy folding. Although you can see that they hang differently as they are not free falling like how the sleeves are with gravity, but instead it's laying and gathering towards the ground. I recommend to try and use real life references to see how different parts of a piece of clothing can react to its surroundings and even different types of cloth as well. But I think it's good to remember that also art style really does play a role in how one tackles drawing clothes or anything in general. Drawing clothes, I feel, does apply to that as well. So, try to find a way that suits your creative style. Like, for example, Yazawa Ai utilizes more sharp angles and tends to do a lot of modern fashion in her work, while Ikeda Ryoko has a lot of fullness and roundness and does a lot of historically inspired work. Both of them have their skill and their own charm, so never be afraid of trial and error and find what suits you. So I'm just speeding it up because I'm just adding details like pleats, lace, seams, buttons, because I wanted the final art to be monochrome as it's for our upcoming art book, and the theme for it is monochrome for the whole thing. Hopefully that works out right, but yeah, that's why I decided for the emblems that you can see here at the jewelry and the pearls to just be drawn and filled with black for the contrast with the dress, since it's gonna be white. The whole winter snow thing. So now I'm trying to draw something that she can actually lean on, since her hand is supposed to be resting on something, which I forgot to do at the start. So I just went with like a lone pillar. Very basic, I know, but that should do the trick. And for the final stage, I'm just gonna be refining everything, thickening the lines, doing the lace, and doing the hair, which I forgot to do. Finishing that. And just making everything look spick and span. So here actually I'm basically done with the overall design, but just to give you guys a full idea of how the final outfit would look if you were to color it, I'm just going to utilize Clip Studio Paint's colorize tool. All you need to do is just set your line art as a reference area, and bada bing bada boom, it's somewhat colored, kinda, but this is just like a mock-up so that you can get an idea how the final image will look, because like I said, this art book is supposed to be monochrome and toned like in the manga style. So yeah, there you go. So hopefully this was somewhat a helpful tutorial. Let me know if you guys would like anything specific for next week. Still trying to figure out the whole YouTube thing, so feedback would be amazing. Oh, and subscribe if you'd like to catch next week's From This to That. Lay signing out.